Good evening, everybody, and welcome to dtalks, that is Disruptive Talks on Education. And we have with us today a very special guest, Mr. Hamoon Ekhtiari. Welcome to the show, sir. It is such a pleasure have you over on the show. Uh,
Thank you so much.
Mr.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, that's awesome. As the future of work continues to evolve and technology continues to accelerate the pace of change, the value of learning, and further the value of continuous learning becomes more important than ever before. So, how do leaders not only encourage learning across their teams, but instill a culture of learning that serves as the foundation of the entire organization? To explore this topic and how to address this problem, we have with us Mr. Hamoon Ekhtiari, the founder and CEO of FutureFit Artificial Intelligence, an artificial powered GPS for the future of work. He is a member of Governor General's Canadian Leadership Conference, an ADR Fellow at the University of Cambridge, uh, a recipient of University of Waterloo's Alumni Achievement Medal, and a Canada Millennium Scholar. Hamoon is a passionate about unlocking the potential of people, of organizations, and societies to imagine and build audacious futures. Wow. A lover of all things, especially blueberries and avocados, Hamoon Ekhtiari is the founder and CEO of FutureFit. He is the Director of Strategy and Innovation for the Executive Vice President at a $30 billion telecom and technology company where he led the future of work strategy for the enterprise. Prior to that, Hamoon was the founding director of a leadership, skills, and innovation academy at one of the world's largest urban innovation hubs. He has also founded a social enterprise, helped build Deloitte's consulting business in the Caribbean, and taught as adjunct faculty. Hamoon is a member of the Governor General's Canadian Leadership Conference. He has founded a social enterprise, helped build Deloitte's consulting business in the Caribbean. He is uh, he's here with us, and today he will be talking on a lot of things, including future of work and learning, the artificial driven automation and its impact on work, future of layoffs and transitions, landing an opportunity in an era of technical disruption. So over to you, Hamoon.
Thank you so much, and glad to be here. Thank you for having me, and congratulations on the incredible work you and the team do around education and SDG 4, which is obviously critical to the future. Uh, Perhaps what I'll share is a little bit of my personal background and how our work at FutureFit AI comes to life. I'm an immigrant by background, so I would have moved when I was in high school to the other side of the world, not knowing English, not knowing anything about the culture of the place I was moving to, and needing to figure out education, career path. And then I also watched my parents, mid career professionals, have to start back from zero and not have their skills and qualifications recognized, and have to figure out how they get access to opportunity in a market that requires local job experience before you get access to a job. And so, personally, this question of helping people access opportunity is something I've very directly experienced. And then over the years, have spent the majority of my professional career focused on the question. So I've done that at places like Deloitte, and as you mentioned, telecom companies and innovation hubs. And most recently, over the last couple of years, that has come to life through our work at FutureFit AI. And at FutureFit AI, the genesis of our work is about this belief that everybody in the world deserves the best and most intelligent level of support and guidance as they figure out their career in a world of work that's fast changing. And that we no longer live in a world where you go to school, you pick a single job, and that's what you do for 40 years after 12 or 16 years of school. It is the jobs and skills that are in demand are changing, options and opportunities and pathways are constantly changing. And so our North Star at FutureFit AI is very much about how do you build an AI powered GPS for your career. And so how do you help people, just like a Google Maps helps you navigate the physical world, how do you help people navigate the world of work and opportunity through the power of a career GPS that is informed by data, that is constantly updating and scanning what's going on in the market, and then reacting and responding to your needs and requirements and goals and dreams and aspirations. If you think about how career pathways work today, we go through school and we are essentially, sometimes depending on the education system, told what we should do. We're often told what we cannot do. We are not exposed to the range of opportunities that are often available. The closest we might come to advice and guidance is what our parents think was the right thing to do 30 years ago, and they still would tell us that is the path we should pursue, and oftentimes levels of pressure that is hard to combat. And in school, a teacher might believe, you know what, because I teach this, this is what you should do. Or even a guidance counselor with a few brochures or information they have in their mind, helping me figure out what I need to do next. And our view is all the way from middle school, when kids are starting to explore career pathways and should, all the way to making the decision of what education I might do, making visible to them that trades might be as exciting and demanding as going through an academic route, that one is not better than the other. These are all pathways to opportunity. It's about who I am, what I'm interested in, what my skills are, and how do we match those to the opportunities that are available out in the world, rather than telling everybody you should become a coder or telling everybody they should become a data scientist. And so very much, how do we start from the dreams of an individual, their aspirations, their skills, their capabilities, their interests, their potential, and then build a path over time to help them succeed. And so, for us, we think about that through the entire life cycle of somebody, all the way from those early stages of career exploration to then helping them make decisions on best learning and training opportunities, to when someone is finishing higher education and thinking about jobs and the workforce, to when someone is in the workforce and is thinking about their career pathways, to someone who might be mid-career and their jobs might be impacted by automation and disruption. How do we help them figure out what's next? To someone who's late stage and trying to think about a final round of a career before they finish, to immigrants and refugees, to parents and veterans, to those who've experienced the justice system and are looking for a second chance. All of these are examples of inflection points in a career. And so how do we better and better help individuals identify where they're at, what they need next, what's the path to get there, and provide them intelligent, responsive guidance along the way to help them make it there. That is the essence of our work at FutureFit AI. We've been at it for over 2 years now. We do this work in about a dozen countries. We partner with the likes of the government of the UK, the National Association of Workforce Boards in the US. We work with the government in the UAE, as well as companies like Royal Bank, Boeing, Manpower Group, and others as we bring this vision to life. And yeah, so that perhaps is where I'll pause and happy to continue the conversation.
Awesome. That's really, really commendable. I mean, your thoughts on how anybody and everybody should choose their careers and what the kind of sea of opportunities, and it's really, really commendable. So here I would ask you the first question: that how does artificial intelligence impact the future of work and life?
I think in almost every way imaginable and yet to be imagined, right? So every aspect of our lives and work is bound to be, in one way or another, explicitly or implicitly, visibly or not, be impacted by artificial intelligence. That goes all the way from the interactions we have with our phones and systems every day. I imagine perhaps even the application we're using to record this, the data that is generated from this conversation might be analyzed by an artificial intelligence system. And so essentially the core of AI, the best way to think about it is about leveraging data to identify patterns and then predict what might happen next or recommend what should happen next. And so making inferences based on data on questions that might need to get answered. So the application of that can go in every direction. We're focused on using that in terms of careers, but an impact of it on life is it doesn't matter what job we're in. We don't need to be working in AI for us to need to be literate in AI, for us to be impacted by it. When we're on social media, at every turn, we're providing data that goes into algorithms. And so from a life perspective, it's about the literacy, understanding of how those systems are impacting us, how we're engaging with them, having ability to choose whether or not we want to and in what ways. And then from a work perspective, every job's being impacted by AI over time, right? So that includes automation of tasks that are maybe better done by machines, maybe more efficiently done by machines, maybe not desired by humans. That also includes assistance and augmentation of work and the work we do to help better set us up for success in terms of what comes next in our work. But in meaningful ways, for a lot of people, it also means real impacts on their jobs. And so how do we help them figure out what's if their jobs are going to be impacted rather than just what would have been traditional layoffs, helping them figure out their path to opportunity and to what's next. So those are some of the ways AI will come to life, but it impacts every industry. When we think about health and providing better, more personalized health services and patient care, when we think about customer service and making sure that can be done more efficiently, sometimes with voice that is just an AI voice taking my order. So there is significant opportunity for every workflow, for every process, for every experience to be both optimized from an efficiency perspective and enhanced from an effectiveness perspective by AI is material and significant. And so the upside is plenty. I think the risks that we need to consider are then the impacts of that on people and their jobs and their livelihoods, and then on our institutions and systems and the principles on which we believe we want to be building the future from an ethical perspective.
Yeah, thank you so much. So what are the opportunities in using digital technology?
Yeah, and I think some of this we spoke to a little bit, but digital technologies come to life in every way, again, imaginable. And so whether it is the likes of AI, but also when we think about blockchain and its ability to securely record forever transactions so that there's traceability. When we think of technologies like virtual reality and mixed reality and augmented reality, those are technologies that enable us to create experiences that we might have not otherwise had, to enhance what we see in the world, to see alternative worlds that we might have not otherwise been able to participate in, to engage remotely as is increasingly necessary when we're not able to do so in person. And so those are some of the examples, but you also think about things like quantum computing and the power of what that can bring in terms of sheer horsepower of computation and enabling new use cases and solutions in the world. So I would say again, look, the impact of these technologies are tools, so they're value neutral. They can be used for good, they can be used for not so good outcomes. And so it is about us as decision makers, us as the users, us as the investors, us as the inventors to decide how we put those technologies to work and the impact that they'll have.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. So what are the main areas of a digital transformation?
Yeah, so I think I would say it really that when you think about the areas where there is both the most manual processes and work happening, and so sometimes when you think about financial industries, when you think about retail, where there's a lot of things that are happening manual and analog. Digitization obviously has significant opportunity to help in digital technologies to drive scalability, optimization, and improvements there. And then the flip side, wherever you look at a problem and an opportunity and you say, we're not delivering the best possible service, the best possible outcomes we could hear, there's a question to be asked of how could digital technologies better help drive those outcomes for people, for customers, for users.
True, true. Very rightly said. How does artificial intelligence and automation, do you think, how will it impact the future of work?
Yeah, and so when we think about automation and artificial intelligence and the future of work, I think of it on a few fronts. So one is, what can it create in terms of possibilities and opportunities that don't exist today? So there are a whole host of new jobs that are being created because of these new technologies. So things like a virtual reality content manager, right? Or a virtual reality experience creator. So there are roles and jobs that are going to be created and have been and will continue to evolve based on these new possibilities that AI bring to life. And so there is lots of new jobs and new skills that come to life because of AI, and that creates opportunities for hopefully better paid, higher quality jobs for people. There's also a very real impact every day, every year, of with stronger and stronger and more capable artificial intelligence, more and more of the existing jobs become to become exposed to risk of disruption and to risk of automation. And so if you think about tasks that are really repetitive, you think about tasks that are very much driven by calculations and analysis. When you think about those that need decision making and prediction of what's going to happen, at every turn, AI has got an opportunity to come and play a role in replacing some of those activities, automating some of those tasks. And so the question then becomes, what happens to those jobs? We might not need as many of those jobs. We might not need the person with such specialized skill set anymore, and we might need people who have more broader skill set to in a single job. And a whole host of activities within jobs might disappear, which might make that job no longer as it was a full-time job and needing to augment with other things for it to become full-time. And so that is very real impact on people who would have counted on that particular career and particular job for themselves over time to be impacted through something like this. And then again, I think ultimately the choice becomes, how do corporations, governments, and societal players choose to invest AI? Is it for good, or is it purely for efficiency and automation? And even when it's for driving efficiencies and automation, is there a corresponding investment in making sure the people who are going to be impacted are still going to be taken care of and supported to land into a better next opportunity along the way?
Thank you so much. I mean, how nicely you've answered this, and this also answers my next question, which was that how will automation and artificial intelligence change the way we work? You've already kind of answered that as well. So, going on to the next question, what are the key workforce transition and challenges?
Yeah, so I think, look, when you look at the macro statistics, you've got in the next decade or so about 90 million new jobs in the world that are going to be created. Great, that's exciting. How do we give people access to that? But about 85 million that are going to be disrupted, impacted, and perhaps more fully automated. And so the question becomes, yes, there is new opportunity, but there's significant disruption happening. And so, the biggest question around transitions is those who are already in really high paying jobs and careers, they might be just fine figuring out what's next for them. It's the 85 million that I'm often most worried and concerned about. They're often in jobs that are not paying well, jobs that don't necessarily have a career pathway, and they're not necessarily set up to easily figure out what's next for them. And so we need to actively build transition pathways, rapid transition pathways, to help them go from A to B. to help them figure out where am I today, in the region and market I'm in, what are the opportunities that I have to get to what's next? And then what do I need to get there? Is that learning and training? Is that job search supports? Are those wraparound resources that help me get there? What's going to allow me to get there? And then guidance and coaching and access to support and motivation to actually successfully make the transition. And so, this is very much a personalized journey, right? You can't predetermine for somebody what their path is going to be. And so you need to be able to focus on them, where they're going, and then understand the transition supports that are necessary to help them get there.
Yes, very, very nice. Here, I would also like to ask my last question. That would be, how do you think artificial intelligence can it be also taught at the school level? I mean, how can it be a part of the school curriculum? And how do you feel that literacy can be impacted anywhere, taking the help of artificial intelligence?
Yeah, and I think on the last part of that question, you're probably more of an expert than I am on literacy specifically. But I think what I would say is we do need to expand and enhance our definitions of literacy, right? That yes, of course, the core basics matter significantly, right? I need to be able to read, I need to be able to write, I need to be able to do basic math. And so those things absolutely matter. But when I think about what is our goal, what is the goal of education? It's to allow me to ultimately live a healthy, happy, hopefully contributing life to society in a
Very
world
beautiful.
dominated by AI. We need to think about health literacy, financial literacy, digital literacy, right? AI literacy. These also become foundational literacies of when I'm given a phone, do I know what it's doing? Do I know where it might be capturing data from me? Do I know how I protect myself in this world? Do I know what choices I have in terms of where I can or don't want to provide my data as it's relevant? If I'm engaging with a support, do I know whether it's human or AI? Can I distinguish between them? If I see a video, do I understand that it might just be a deep fake video generated by AI? So I would say, from an education perspective, we way too often focus on content, right? We spend 12 years teaching people content on things they'll never remember, right? And I think it's really about better choices and better decision making. So what does it look like? Couple of fronts on AI literacy: expose, expose, expose. Here's where it's showing up. Here's how it's impacting you. How would you make a decision differently, right? It's about exposure and awareness on the literacy side. On the skill side, helping people actually interact and engage with AI and try to actually, through projects, right? Project-based, challenge-based learning, where I'm doing real things in the world. And I, through that, learn about, okay, how does AI show up? How could it show up? How could I use it to drive better outcomes? So that would be my view on that.
Thank you so much. Brilliant views, and I'm sure our audience have so much to learn from you. Thank you so much, Hamoon, for being on our show. It has been such a pleasure listening to you and listening your ideas and how you inspired our audience. Thank you very much. So thank you, audience, and this is the end of the show. And this is Anupma Mahajan signing off.